Welcome back, Mobile Home Park Nation. Ferd here again today with another episode of the Mobile Home Park Lawyer Podcast. My guest today, she's based out of Atlanta, Georgia. She's part of Open Door Capital. She's the head of asset management. Please help me welcome our guest, Sydney Barker. Sydney, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Sydney, for our guests that don't know you, I see you a fair amount on LinkedIn and on Facebook, and you've got a good presence there. But for our guests that maybe don't know you, tell us a little bit more your background, what the company does, what your roles at the company, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, my background is in finance and accounting. I started out doing compliance SEC reporting for a large insurance company. I was a controller for a couple different IT companies here in Atlanta. And I just kind of, like a lot of people that get started in this industry, was trying to pursue the whole passive income lifestyle. And I stumbled upon, mobile home parks at the time that I started looking at this. They were not as hot as they are now. Everyone, was doing multifamily apartments. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to do mobile home parks. And that was, I guess that was the end of 2019. And it's just kind of exploded since then. As you know, it's now like, the sexiest asset class, which is somewhat strange to say. So I got started on my own. I just decided I'm going to go big. My first deal was a 71 pad. I still have it. And I just started doing that. And I ended up, through networking, connected with Brian Murray, who owns Washington Street Properties. And one day he was like, do you think you can help us? We started these funds, and we'd like for you to help us, manage our portfolio of mobile home parks. So it was a huge honor. I love it. I'm so excited to come to work every day. And so right now I'm doing asset management for the Open Door Capital mobile home portfolio.
That's great. Now I know you told me earlier you're based out of Atlanta right now, but you've got coworkers in Hawaii, Maine, elsewhere. You have properties throughout the country. How does that work, and how does it look from a day-to-day on asset management, where you're overseeing, presumably budgets, capex, other projects, but it's infeasible to be all places at all times. So
Yeah.
maybe give us some of your day-to-day, and maybe some tips as to how our listeners can learn as how to manage such a diversified geography.
Well, I mean, I think COVID really kind of taught a lot of the world how to work at home, and to communicate via Zoom and different other channels. And here we use Asana, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but it's like a task management, project management type software. And we basically use that as like our Bible. That's our method of communication. It's our way to be accountable for things that we need to be doing. And so we love using it. So that's a way to keep us all kind of connected and on the same page with stuff. And then our ERP system to manage our portfolio, we use Rent Manager, which, side note, I absolutely love in spite of remote desktop login. But it really is a great software. And so that's also our Bible for keeping track of everything related to the portfolio. So everything lives in there, nothing lives outside of there. It's the way we can keep running a tight ship. We can all communicate well together.
No, that's good. We use Rent Manager as well, and it's a love-hate relationship. It's like,
oh really?
I mean, I love it, and that it's this robust program that can do 100 things, but the same time, like, I've spent so much time in the entrails of Rent Manager, like running balance sheets on a per unit basis and running all these budget, compare difference reports, and just like, gosh, why can there not be more? And I know they have automation, but it just seems like there's just a ton of work that goes into Rent Manager. But yeah, I'm not looking to switch, but by any means, it's a
well, I mean, I can tell you, like, just through my experience, I have used almost every accounting, I would say, like, accounting system out there, from QuickBooks to, and I know this isn't like necessarily related to managing tenants, but as far as an accounting system is concerned, Rent Manager is probably one of the best, which is funny because it's just, you think it's more for operations, but the accounting yeah, capability of Rent Manager is better to me than QuickBooks.
Oh yeah, I tell
And
people it's QuickBooks on steroids.
yeah, I mean,
It's far
and I think QuickBooks is great. I mean, really for small business, I think QuickBooks is great. Um, let's see, two companies ago, IT company, we did a three-way merger acquisition and an accounting system implementation, and we spent like $1 million, architecting this new system with different consultants, and it was supposed to do all this cool stuff. And I tell you what, that thing was crazy. I absolutely love Rent Manager. So highly recommend.
yeah, it's definitely robust, and
Yeah, it
I don't
is.
even know how to use it all, but it's like, and I don't and at this point in my life, I don't care to learn how to use it anymore. But it's definitely a valuable tool for sure.
I kind of nerd out on it, to be honest.
It's a good program to do that for sure. Well, besides the nerding out on Rent Manager, what does asset management look like for you, and how do you say Asana, Rent Manager? Um, how often do you have to go visit your properties, and is it because of COVID, or you guys have adapted to just desktop reviews, and how do you interact with other people in the accounting department, property managers and vendors and et cetera? And is there any special sauce there that you're willing to share with our listeners as to how to you know keep your hair from burning on fire on a given day with managing mobile home park tenants and investments?
Well, so we have a standard that we want to actually be in our parks every 6 months. So we want someone from the team to, go visit the park, visit with the manager, if there is an on-site one there, and just, we have like a checklist, like, hey, when you do a site visit, look for these different things, and we want our park managers to know we're on top of this. We are watching this very, very closely. So every 6 months, we visit our parks. Um, and then as far as just kind of trying to, keep the dumpster fire down. I mean, like I said, as Asana, we build this thing out so much where it just tells you this is what you have to do today. Here's our top priorities. These are the things that have to get done today. We have recurring tasks. We have like for capital projects, we've got different dashboards. So I'll put like a capital project dashboard. Like here are the ones that we need to do. For the lender requires us to do this. Here are the due dates, and it keeps track of all communication. So I really think that's, I don't want to say it's a secret sauce, but like being organized, especially when you have a team that's continuing to grow, you have to have really good communication.
No, I agree. It makes sense. Now, as far as growth in your team, and you mentioned earlier it's a hot market. How is that impacting you from the asset management side? I know from the acquisition side, you got to be more aggressive, or you got to just miss out on deals. From a property management side, presumably it's going to be similar, but from an asset management side, is it similar, or are you having to take on projects that have more hair on them and are going to require more infrastructure changes and upgrades? Or um, how has life changed over the last 3 years as the market's gotten hotter and hotter by the day?
Each deal is so different. I mean, we bought a deal up in Alaska, and you know, trying to even understand the operations of that park, it's like you're talking about a different planet. Like I've never been that far north. I do not know like what that coldness feels like, but it's a different world. It's a different type of weather patterns, and like for instance, there's certain times a year where the sun doesn't fully go down, so the plants go crazy, and you have to make sure that you're going to have a little bit more expense associated with landscaping costs.
Right.
So there's a lot of stuff that we've learned, depending on the climate. You got to play different games, and move your money around and budget properly for stuff like that. But each park has its own thing. I mean, each lender has its own requirements. um, so it's all different. It's definitely kept us on our toes. We've grown exponentially with the parks that we've brought on, and it's been it's been challenging to try to onboard them perfectly. I would love everything to be perfect, but sometimes that's not attainable. But I think our team has done an awesome job with the volume that we've experienced. I mean, this year alone, to onboard these parks. So
Got it. Yeah, Alaska. I've never been there, but I would imagine that's going to be a different animal. I mean, just I'm thinking about heat tape and frozen pipes have to be a major concern there.
yeah,
That's where I went instead of plants. I wouldn't even have thought of that. I would have thought, oh my gosh, frozen pipes everywhere. But
yeah, and even this park, like I didn't realize um, road maintenance is huge. You
mm,
know, with the way that the wind whips and constantly blows, like, you know, we almost have like a side business for road repair. Like we've got some heavy machinery that like dumps gravel and sand and spreads it out. And, you know, we have a snow plower. Like it's like this little separate like maintenance company within our park. And what's kind of cool is we've actually been able to, you know, take that expense, which is not, you know, I mean, it's high. It's high when in the snow months, but we've actually been able to go serve other residents, businesses outside the park, and actually try to offset some of that cost.
mm,
So, that definitely was not expected, but we were able to kind of mitigate those costs and get a little creative.
interesting. Yeah, that's definitely not your core business. I've looked at a couple
Yeah.
of those where I've got loaders or toter trucks that come with their parts, and maybe I can pour concrete for somebody else. Maybe I can move homes for somebody else. And it's just like I've never done it. I was like, I got enough of my own stuff to work on. It never made sense. But up there, it's like you've already got the equipment. You know, it's a
Yeah.
big fixed cost. Can you monetize it some other way for sure?
Yeah.
What other do you have any horror stories for us or good ideas or tips you can share from the asset management side or just in general your operational side? I know you do more than just asset management, but from operations in this business, it's it's very intense, very complicated, lots going on relative to a lot of other assets. So
Yeah.
do you have
It's
anything?
you know, it really is kind of a crazy business. You know, I've done site visits and you know, there's times where I'm, you know, I'll ask myself like, what am I doing? Like, you know, this is, you know, there's people like running in the park with, you know, their shirts off and you know, you're just like, wow, this is really crazy, but it's really fun. But so we have a weekly asset property management meeting every week. And I always like to start off the meeting with like, what is your story for the week? Like, tell me like the most interesting thing that's happened this past week. And the stories are so crazy that I'm convinced we have to write a book. Like we have to
Oh yeah.
journal all these things that have been happening. It's quite entertaining. Things like uh, you know, domestic violence, and then you know, the park manager will get involved and start yelling in someone's face, or uh, you know, there was a kid that we had that was chopping up cats with machetes.
Jeez.
I mean, just stuff that doesn't even sound real. So,
Right. No, there's
but
definitely some craziness that happens
yeah,
in these mobile home parks for sure. Just like what?
you
Yeah.
know, and I do like a monthly write up that's like, you know, how's the park doing? You know, kind of here's some key financial performance indicators, but here's also operationally what is actually happening. And I love doing it because we share, you know, internally with the team. And, you know, since we've got our underwriting team, our acquisitions team, they're able to kind of see, okay, here's kind of what we thought, you know, and underwriting, here's kind of what we were forecasting the expenses would be maybe. And in reality, this is really what is happening. Like for instance, you know, legal fees, you know, they've been a little higher with COVID and, you know, the moratorium stuff. So I think what our team does really well is we have a really good feedback loop. You know, like here's what we thought, but here's the reality, and we're able to kind of share so that we can just really dial in our underwriting.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. The last couple of years has really made underwriting to turn on its head. Like, what are operations look like? What do collections look like?
Yeah.
What does infill look like right now? My biggest problem is I can't find homes. And I can't
Yeah,
find
same with us.
homes.
We have a hard time finding homes. It's really challenging. We've put in orders for new homes, and I mean, I think our last order, you know, we're not going to get until Q1 next year. So
Yeah. It's crazy. I have manufacturers regularly say, "Nah, don't even waste your time. Like we can't order.
Yeah.
We can't even give you a offline date. It's just we're not placing orders for you right now."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've bought plenty from you before. Any loyalty? They're like, no, sorry, we just can't do it. They're like, okay, well, thanks for the relationship, buddy. I just thought we were friends, and
Yeah. There's been multiple times that I'm thinking, gosh, I should get into building mobile homes. Like this is like
right.
so underserved at this point, and you know that it's bad when wholesalers are all of a sudden starting to wholesale mobile homes. So it's it has changed very quickly in a short amount of time.
It really is. It's
Yeah.
great. Now, you told me earlier that some of your companies in Hawaii. How does are you mad that you got stuck in Atlanta, or is Atlanta more cool and a better place than Hawaii? And how does that work with your different time zones? You don't ever see each other person face to face, I would presume. But that's a different component to operations than more teams would normally have.
Yeah, I mean, the Hawaii team is it really, I would say, not on the operation side, operating the parks. So, the time difference doesn't really
Okay.
do much. It doesn't really bother us at all. Um, and so Brandon and his team are out there, and they're more. I would say I like this line of delineation. It's like here's investor relations, raising money, finding deals, and then once we close on a deal, then it like comes over to Atlanta, and our team is the one that manages the assets and um, make sure that they're performing the way that we want to for our portfolio. So this side of the equation is in Hawaii, and then this side is in Atlanta.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that makes some sense. That they don't have to work day to day with each other. It's just
Yeah.
different divisions of the company, so to speak.
Exactly. And I've actually never been to Hawaii, so I definitely on my list.
Yeah, you got an excuse to go. You could expense
Yeah.
it. Get
I don't
them.
know if I'm looking forward to that plane, that flight though.
Yeah, yeah, that
That's
would be that
a
would be
long flight.
brutal. I flew to South Africa once, and it was like 19 hours from Atlanta to Johannesburg, and it was crazy. It was
Oh
long.
yeah. I might go crazy. I don't know if I can sit still that long.
Yeah. Well, anything before we go? Anything else you want to share? Any other tips or ideas? Or floor is yours. And if I forget, bug me here too. Where can people find you, and how can they reach out to you as well?
Ooh, any tips or ideas? Huh. Uh, I guess the tip that I like to share the most is and this is coming from a place because I used to do this when I first started in this industry is don't when you're underwriting a deal, when you're looking at a deal, um, it's not all going to work out perfect. You know, your water sewer recapture rate is probably not going to be 95%. You know, your occupancy projections, you've got to look at it in the light of shortage of mobile homes. You have to be very conservative with your underwriting. I see a lot of people that they're looking at a spreadsheet, they don't really know, they're making assumptions, and I think you just have to be really careful with underwriting because people make some pretty bold assumptions, especially with exit cap rates and just expense ratios. Like they'll take top revenue line item and they'll say, oh yeah, this park's running at a 50% expense ratio. I know I could run it at a 35%. It's like you better make sure that you really know how to do that.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of factors at play. It's not all theory. So maybe any advice for anyone getting into mobile home park investing, make sure you either team up or get counsel or advice from someone that is actually doing the work, has done the work and knows the industry. Because people read a lot of books, listen to some podcasts, and think they're an expert. And I think there's a lot more value in actually working with someone that is, boots on the ground. They're actually doing it. They actually know what's going on in the industry.
No, that's a great tip. I see that all the time too. And I've said this before on my show. Is that nowhere in anybody's Microsoft Excel projections does it end in bankruptcy. Like no one's ever done that, right? But in real life, projects end in bankruptcy, right? And why is that? Because their assumptions were wrong or their implementation strategy was wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, have experience. I see people all the time. Oh, you can pay this. Brokers are the worst at it. Just
Oh
just do
yeah.
this, do this, do this. You increase rent like this. You cut this. Just boom, you got this yield. I'm like, yeah, that's how the math works. But
Yeah.
how does it work in real life? And if it's that easy, why aren't you doing it? You had access to, you have access to deal. You got first dibs on it, like because it's not a real business plan. It's math in a spreadsheet. It's not easy to do. It's so.
Exactly. I know. I see a lot of broker deals that are like, oh yeah, all you gotta do is just go in there and just increase lot rent $200 a month on day one. You're like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen on for many different reasons. But it's interesting, like a lot of the pricing that I'm seeing. I mean, the fact that we're seeing stuff in the fours cap rates absolutely blows my mind. But oh gosh, where are they going with this? Oh yeah, just seeing the pricing from brokers, just assuming, almost like they want you to prepay for value add. Like, oh yeah, you could go in here and increase the rent $100, and they want you to prepay for that work.
Right.
And why would you do that?
People do it every day, right? And I
mean,
looked at one this morning. It said 7-year IRR, 15%. So if you carry out a business plan, infill, cut cost, and raise rent for 7 years, and it works, a leveraged rate of return with principal pay down, with cash flow, with appreciation, get you 15% gross before, if you had to do any investor, before you had any splits, if it works out. I'm thinking that sounds like a horrible way to make 15%. That seems like
right.
a lot of work, a lot to go
And
right.
everything has to go right for it to work out.
It's like all of a sudden that index fund's starting to sound pretty good. I mean, no work, so
Exactly.
no, I think your advice is great to, question assumptions, partner up with people that have the experience, be conservative, and just in general, get educated in any way you can.
Yeah, agree. Definitely agree.
Okay, well that's a good tip for sure. Well, Sydney, before we go, how can people find you? Website or email or LinkedIn, any preferred way?
I'm in multiple places. I mean, you can hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. You can private message me there. I do get a lot of messages there. And I'll put my email out here too. I've gotten questions from doing some other podcasts. If you have any questions or feedback, or if you're interested in potentially being an LP in one of our deals, you can always email me at Sydney, SYDNEY, at odcfund.com, and I'll put you with one of our teammates that can give you more information on our offerings.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for coming on.
All right, thank you, Ferd.